Okay.
All right.
Back to Alvin.
Yes.
I just wanted to follow up on one of the things you were talking about, the rule of law and everything. And people tend to forget that the basic law is the Constitution. Everything else goes from there, and it's not just a matter of, oh yeah, we're a nation of law, so we'll just write a new law. That's not the
You're absolutely
the background there.
You're absolutely right, and as I've said on a number of occasions, it seems to be that the more I do this political blogging, the more conscious I become of what is that foundational law, and where have we gone with the laws built on top of that. As we had Ian Underwood on earlier, who spoke at one of the gun bill testimony times, he said words either have meaning or they don't have any meaning at all, in reference to some of the meanings of Article 2A in the Second Amendment. And yes, he did kind of twist the minds of some of the legislators and going, do we have to think about this? But too many times we see laws being written outside of the Constitution, and they don't care. And that's a big problem. So do you have an answer? Do you have a remedy for us?
No, not until the people want to vote out the people who... well, we had one state representative who said the Constitution is just a guideline. It's the courts that decide what's the law. Oh,
I actually can look that up because I've got that on a page I call Progressives in the Proper Role of Government. Let me look that up. I'm glad you brought that up. And I think it's Dee Simone, who was a Democrat turned a Republican. I think she may be a Democrat again, who said, yeah, it's just a guideline.
She was always a Democrat then.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Had a couple of those kicking around, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And we like to kick them around.
And I guess you forgot she swore the oath to uphold the Constitution and also signed a paper because the legislators have to sign a document stating that they'll uphold the Constitution. So.
Yeah, and they don't. I think we've got that covered, don't we?
Yeah, and there was a movement here. Was it about a year and a half ago? Honor your oath. Mm-hmm. And and the press excoriated these people. Jack Kimball, former NHGOP chair, a number of other organizations who said, "What is wrong? What is so extreme about holding our elected representatives accountable to that oath?" I thought that's a perfectly valid thing to do, unless words don't mean anything anymore.
Well, there was also the Oath Keepers organization, which was trying to get any police or military people to follow the oath of office that they're in, which was to uphold the Constitution, and not necessarily any crazy orders that came down from on high.
And you're right. I am a former elected official. I did swear the oath, and I took it very seriously. But I think too many people see it as, I just have to do this, and then I get to start doing my real job. And they don't take that oath. You're laughing, Steve.
Well, I'm laughing. That's
Why?
True. No, I'm just because you're right. That whole, I just got to get on with what I'm doing. It has nothing to do with this oath Constitution business. I wrote a post related kind of to this discussion at Watchdog Arena at Franklin Center and watchdog.org on the case of King versus Burwell, which is brought because it basically states that the law as written, Obamacare as written, does not allow the government to provide subsidies to people who sign up on a federal exchange. They have to sign up on a state exchange. So there's a lot of debate about what King v. Burwell will do to Obamacare, and I said, well, I don't really care about any of that stuff. I think it's about federal law as written. The law was written. The words mean something. The words said you can't do this. If you want to do that, you have to change the law and you have to use the process. You have to use the legislature. You have to get the president to sign it, da-da-da-da-da. Obviously, that's not the way this president likes to do things. It's not the way a lot of presidents like to do things. This one's just the most recent and worst example that I can think of. But I wrote King v. Burwell is about federal laws written, not just this federal law, but every federal law, now or ever. If the law is not enforced as written, federal legislators will never be held to account for their laziness. If legislation does not mean what it says, and government men are free to reinterpret the meaning of federal laws to suit their current mood, then there is no law. And there isn't. I mean, you don't know. I mean, the speed limit says 35, but they pull you over for going 20. And then they say you can't do anything about it. Well, it's the same thing. That law has to mean something. Otherwise, you have no way to operate. Businesses can't operate. We already have that problem.
Alvin, you remember correctly, the Constitution is a guideline. That was said by New Hampshire State Deborah DeSimone, who was a Republican when she said it. There was also this, that New Hampshire State Representative Susan Almy, Democrat, well, you don't get to decide what is constitutional, and I don't get to decide what is constitutional. The judiciary decides what is constitutional, which I think is absolutely ass backwards, because everybody's business is to say, is it constitutional or not? And if you are making laws for us, you should be determining whether or not this is constitutional. Otherwise, there's no limiting principle.
Right. The state reps should do their best diligence in making sure that they're compliant with the Constitution. I realize there's going to be issues that come up that would be gray areas where you can't really be sure, and that's where the courts are going to have to make a decision if it becomes an issue. But a lot of the stuff that they're doing, it's plain and simple in the Constitution. Are they allowed to do it or not?
Yeah, and of course, it isn't just elected officials, it's also appointed or employees of the state. For instance, former executive director of the Nashua, New Hampshire Regional Planning Commission, Kerry Deers, private property rights get in the way of good planning. Private property rights won't let us have the discussion.
Private property rights get in the way of socialism.
Yes, and Granite State Futures said anticipated barriers to their planning purposes. Anticipated barriers include New Hampshire's strong tradition of individual property rights and resultant resistance to planning and zoning. And you know something? It's that kind of attitude of, well, we're going to try to do as much as we can unless we get shut down by the courts. That's the process, the mind thought that says, we're going to lose our rights because private property, that's one of the reasons we broke off from Britain, because private property rights were being abrogated. The Third Amendment, I think it's the third, quartering of soldiers in one's home is taking away your property rights. And these people just don't they don't want to get it. And that's even more dangerous.
And part of it, they don't see that it's going to actually happen to themselves.
Yeah, they're not going to suffer the consequences of their actions. And in a lot of cases, they put themselves into places or positions where they don't. The rest of us do, but they don't. But anyways, I think it's time for a little bit of a break here. So are we going to try once again, going to try the music. This ought to be interesting.
Okay, hang on a second. I got to make this fit the space. I'm in the middle of posting some pictures from this lovely day. Let me go back to that page.
Oh, you're already busy.
I'm always busy. That's what I've been doing. That's why if I'm quiet, I'm up to something. Okay, so let me get rid of all of these. Well, that music works, but that's not what I was looking for.
Oh.
I was going to do this.
Rock.